what that music means? It's time for our Monday weekly climb up the stairs through the water and the cigarette smoke, air quotes water, to our seats
Yeah.
in the second balcony. It's Greg Boysen and Frank Nova, who's selling himself short. You could definitely get at least a conditional 6th-round pick for your services.
I wonder how many people click on our podcast and then just shut it down after Al Melgar's done playing.
I would say a lot.
It's a non-zero number.
I mean, that's what I do. I mean,
Yeah.
While we're talking about that, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this week's episode, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Get us to 500 subscribers. Darn it. You know you want to hit the follow on your podcast apps, like it, share it, all that fun stuff. It helps us out. It helps us get into algorithms so more hockey fans can get exposed to whatever exactly it is we do here.
Yeah.
Well, the Blackhawks
if you want to sponsor us, I promise I'll give you an entertaining read of ad copy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you ever want to see a good ad read, I don't remember exactly when it was. It was in the early days of CHGO when we had Manscaped on as a sponsor for like a week. And my two co-hosts didn't want to touch the Manscaped ad. And I was like, I'll do it. And I had the capability to ad-lib a little bit, and that was the one and only Manscaped ad we ever had to do.
I had a similar experience with Manscaped. I was guesting on Andy Dolan's Remember This Crap podcast, and they did a special one on the 1977 Cubs, and I came on to talk about the 77 Cubs, and it was a lot of fun, but Manscaped was their ad, and oh, yeah, I was definitely talking about my silky smooth nutsack and things like that.
Yeah, I believe the line I did to put it over the top that caused Jay and Mario to lose it was, so if you want your balls as smooth as the United Center ice, get yourself
Oh, that's good.
All right, now they owe us $7 for talking about them. I mean, I think we're the only podcast in the world they haven't officially sponsored, so they need to send us a check for $8.
Yeah, now I wish I still had all those emails from people that wanted to sponsor Hockey Night.
There you go.
Anyway, so
all right, we got actual news today.
Yeah,
Blackhawks
one,
were nice
one
enough
down, two to go.
Yeah, maybe. Connor Murphy is man. Find someone who loves you as much as Stan Bowman loves reacquiring former players.
Yes.
Stan Bowman trades for Connor Murphy a second time. The Blackhawks send the veteran defenseman to the Edmonton Oilers for a 2nd-round pick in 2028. So far away. And they retain half his salary, which probably was what was able to get them up into the 2nd round. Good. I think everybody got what they wanted out of this trade. Kyle Davidson set his asking price at a 2nd rounder, and he got it. I don't know if there was much of a bidding war as he'd kind of hoped heading into the trade. A couple weeks ago or a couple weeks before the Olympic break, it kind of felt like Murphy might be the one of the top prizes, but then guys like Justin Falk became available and Ristolainen became available, and Dougie Hamilton's name is out there. So all of a sudden he kind of got knocked down a tier or two, but still got the 2nd round pick he wanted. The Oilers get their defensive defenseman that they desperately need, and Connor Murphy gets to play in some Stanley Cup playoff games in front of actual human beings. So everybody wins.
Yeah. And, as an aside, also, this means that Connor Bedard will be wearing the A the rest of the year. I don't know if they formally announced it or not, but yeah, he's going to be wearing the A.
Yeah, I mean,
anytime a letter wearer was out for a game, they put the A on Bedard.
Right. Well, I mean, the entire leadership core could be gone by Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Jason Dickinson is, I would say, expected to be traded between now and the deadline. And then Nick Foligno, it's kind of up to him. If he wants to go, they'll probably try and accommodate him. And then Ilya Mikheyev is the other Blackhawk whose name has popped up a lot in trade rumors, as it appears that they're not close on any kind of an extension. But that doesn't mean necessarily that, they didn't extend Ryan Donato till after the season last year. So it may be one of those things where like, hey, this is our offer. Go out and see if you can get something better. If not, circle back and, we'll make the deal.
Yeah. That happens.
Yeah. I know some people were a little, I don't want to say, I don't know, they were just confused at why the Blackhawks got, a draft pick 2-3 drafts away, 2028. But, they already have 3 second-round picks in 2026. They have 2 in 2027 because they have the Canucks second rounder for taking on Ilya Mikheyev's contract. Another one of those great Kyle Davidson trades where he got a high draft pick to get a really serviceable player.
Yeah.
He's done that twice to the Canucks. He did that for Dickinson and Mikheyev. And then he got that first round pick for Peter Mrazek, who was decent when he was healthy. So the 2028 pick. So now you got multiple picks in the second round, 3 straight drafts. You don't want to load up and have 8 first and second round picks in one draft, because all those guys are going to come through the pipeline at the same time, and you're going to get, you're going to run into issues. So this way, at some point in the not so distant future, the salary cap is going to come into play real quick for Kyle Davidson and the Blackhawks, and he's going to have to make some tough decisions. So if he has to let a couple of talented young players go because he can't afford them, well, now you have your 2028 second round draft pick in 2030 on his ELC can come slide in and play for league minimum and contribute. That's how the Tampa Bay Lightning have been so good for so long. And, the Avalanche have been able to bring up young guys to fill in roles. So that's kind of the idea there.
Yeah. And, just bearing in mind, not every single guy they've drafted is going to pan out, which brings me to, I know there's more stuff with Connor Murphy, so I want to finish that up, but then I want to circle back to, the reality of guys maybe not panning out. Connor Murphy, when the Blackhawks got him, they traded Nicholas Hjalmarsson to get him. And, it was part of that breaking up of the Stanley Cup team. And, we loved Nicholas Hjalmarsson, and he was great. He was absolute lion for the Blackhawks, just the ultimate puck-eating defenseman. But, that style of play doesn't lend itself to a long career. And it was one of the few times where Stan Bowman was actually kind of forward-thinking and was able to get Connor Murphy, who had his own injury issues, but the fact of the matter is he's still in the league and Nicholas Hjalmarsson is not. So that actually wound up being a good trade for the Blackhawks, even though, we all loved Nicholas Hjalmarsson.
Yeah, it's very hard to be a player that comes in after you've been traded for a fan favorite like Hjalmarsson, especially a fan favorite that won 3 championships.
Yeah,
that's a tough position. A lot
fan
of guys
favorite and a favorite in the room.
Yeah, I mean that's tough to walk into, a room with a Duncan Keith and a Jonathan Toews and a Patrick Kane saying, "Hey, I'm here replacing your old pal Nick," but he did a really good job. He became that. He went from being the new guy to being the leader in that room for years, and the Blackhawks are going to be a little lost for the first couple games without him, I think. He's that veteran guy that, hey, you need Kevin Korchinski to have a safety net around him. It's Connor Murphy. You need Sam Renzel to have a guy out there that can kind of be a coach on the ice with him. It's Connor Murphy. That's gone now. I mean, your veteran leader now is Matt Grzelcyk and Alex Vlasic. So those guys are going to have to step up for sure. And the Oilers are getting
Grzelcyk is a guy who I would not be stunned to have him be spoken of in the past tense on Friday.
I don't know. His name really hasn't been flying around there, and the way Jeff Blashill waxed poetically about him the other day, during those Olympic break practices. I would not be surprised if he's brought back next year to be the veteran guy next year, because they're going to need some sort of veteran again next year. You just can't go with Alex Vlasic, Louis Crevier, and less than 150 games of experience.
Yeah,
You got to have a veteran back there. So I don't
but
know. We'll
I could
see.
see I could see Buffalo going after somebody like Grzelcyk. Like
Could be. I mean, if
they
someone comes and
need
offers
that
you,
veteran. They need that veteran because they're going to be in the playoffs, and there is not a lot of playoff experience in that room.
right? I did an article on Blackhawk Up over the weekend about predicting the trade deadline. I actually predicted that Connor Murphy was going to end up in Buffalo instead of Edmonton, because I just didn't think Edmonton was going to be able to get the salary to work out, and I thought they would try and shoot a bigger shot, make a bigger splash. But getting Connor Murphy is exactly what they need. With Bowman, it's familiarity. He knows exactly what he's going to get. They're going to get, a guy that's going to fit seamlessly into their locker room, become a leader. And then, when you look at their defensive core, they've got Matthias Ekholm is kind of on island when it comes to defensive defensemen. So he gets a reprieve. Because you have Darnell Nurse, who, okay, gets paid to be a number one, but he's not a number one. Sounds familiar in Chicago. Evan Bouchard is an offensive defenseman. He does not play a whole lot of actual defense. Jake Wallman is not he's a two-way guy, and he's been playing on the right side, which is his offside. So that allows Wallman to go back to his natural left side, and kind of helps out the whole thing, and anytime you add a guy who is a key member of the league's top penalty kill unit right before the playoffs, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. And one of the things they did to clear space too was they put Matthias Janmark on long-term injured reserve. So that will buy them
Blackhawks legend Matthias Janmark.
That is right. But that buys them a little bit of cap space.
Yeah, and you know what? The last 2 years, I rooted for the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup final, basically because I want to see Connor McDavid get a Stanley Cup. And now I will definitely be rooting for the Oilers if they get to the Stanley Cup final again, because Connor Murphy is a absolute gem of a human being. Always gracious with his time, always gives you a good quote. He was always the guy that would be in the room after a tough loss or after I don't want to say controversy, but after, something's come up, he was the guy that was always there to take the tough questions and did so with a lot of class and professionalism. So he'll be missed, by his teammates, by his coaches, by the fans, but he's going to be missed by the beat reporters too, because he was always one of the guys you can go to and get a good quote, and he never made you feel like you were bugging him or putting him out of place at all. So he'll definitely be missed.
Yeah, although I will say Edmonton's made it to the final the last 2 years. It's going to be a little bit tougher sledding for him this year.
It will be. It's going to be a surprise if they get there.
It's going to be Colorado Avalanche conference final.
I don't know. Pacific Division sucks a whole lot of ass this year. You've been watching that. Hey, and it's March 1st, and look at that. Mark Stone's on LTIR again. Wow, weird how that happens. I mean, the Kings just fired their coach. They're a mess. The Ducks. I don't think the Ducks beat the Oilers in a 7-game series. They're a fun little story, but I could see them getting out of the first 2 rounds. But after that, either against
it all depends on when they see Dallas or Colorado.
It won't be to the conference final. So I could see them beating the Ducks or the Kings, whoever they play in the first round. If they play Vegas in the second round, I could see them beating Vegas. And then it's Colorado, Dallas, or Minnesota, and I don't like their chances in that series. But
no.
Especially since they never solved their goaltending problem. They actually got worse.
No.
They somehow got worse.
Yeah, actually right now, because Colorado and Vegas right now are sitting in the two top seeds. Edmonton could still sneak into that top seed
They could. They absolutely
in the
could.
Pacific, and if they can, that makes life a lot easier for them. But they're still going to have to see Dallas before they get to Colorado.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
If they win the Pacific, they'll get the top wild card team, which right now is Utah. And based on what we saw Sunday against the Blackhawks, that is a beatable team.
Yeah, they're kind of where you'd like to see the Blackhawks be in a year or two. They're young and erratic, and they can make some noise. I mean, this is something I want to talk about, which is the Blackhawks have Connor Bedard, who is a star in this league, and they've got some guys who, like Alex Vlasic, is a good NHL defenseman. Frank Nazar has had this has not been a great year for Frank Nazar at all.
No, he's had a disappointing season, and he'll tell you that.
Yeah, and we wanted to see more out of him before he got hurt. Even he started off, he came roaring out of the gate, like, okay, this is what we expected out of Frank Nazar, and then it just fell apart. And yeah, part of it is the fact that Jeff Blashill has had to kind of shuffle guys around, but the fact of the matter is, Frank Nazar's got to be able to create his own plays once in a while too, and that just has not been happening. And you're seeing first rounders coming up. You're seeing Nazar's here, Oliver Moore, Rinzel, Korchinski's back up, Levshinov. These first rounders are in the lineup. They're playing games, and the Blackhawks they're in the 5th spot for the draft lottery. And my question is, right now, Blackhawks media, Blackhawks fans they're still largely buying into the plan. I know there's one guy who comments on every single video we have that Davidson needs to be fired. That's not happening.
It's always one, right?
Yeah, well, that's fine. It's probably it could be a Stan Bowman burner count for all we know. But the fact of the matter is, at this point, there's still patience being given to Kyle Davidson. And my question is there ever going to be a time where, because it's going to fall to Danny Wirtz, and is Danny Wirtz ever going to pull on the leash? Because right now that leash is really slack, as far as we know.
I think, there's obviously been improvement this year. I did the math. If they finish out this 25 game post Olympic stress 500, they'll be at 78 points, which is a 17-point improvement from last year, which is a big deal. But that's and I think if we had said in the beginning of the year Blackhawks are going to have 78 points, everybody had been like, awesome, we'll take that. How they got to that 78 points, if they get there, there were flashes this season where you were like, hey, maybe this team can be the Utah Mammoth and play some meaningful games down the stretch. But then it just kind of fell apart. Yeah, there's been injuries and stuff, but you're still dealing with the inconsistencies of a young team. I think the pressure comes next year, where if you're in year 4 of Connor Bedard and you have Anton Frundell here and you have Kanserov here and Lardis is here playing, you got all these guys that we've been hearing about and Nazar's. And if that team has a 70-point season and hasn't made any real progression, then there's going to be some pressure.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some pressure if that team is good. Say that team gets, 90 points and just misses a wild card spot, then there's going to be pressure on Kyle Davidson to go out and get that next piece to get them over. So one way or another, this time next year, there will be a lot more pressure on Davidson than there is right now.
Yeah, because right now it kind of feels like it's too early to call success or failure on this. Like in Toronto, you had the Shanna plan, and there's not any kind of if somebody wants to come up with a catchy name for The Kyle Davidson plan, please let us know. Put it in the comments. Let us know. The David plan doesn't really work.
Right. I don't want a name for it because anytime you put a name on it, it usually fails. We've been making fun of the Iser plan for years, and that's finally looking like it might, turn into a playoff spot here this season.
Yeah.
And the Shannon plan never,
No.
I don't know how much of a plan really was there in Toronto.
There wasn't.
We've got 5 guys. Let's just keep trying to win with these same 5 guys, and not get a goaltender.
Yeah, and you would think a guy who has a Stanley Cup ring in his collection would understand that depth wins cups.
You would think, but you also look at, a guy like Ken Holland, who was a goaltender and his entire time in Edmonton refused to go get a goaltender.
Yeah.
Or you look at the Chicago Bears, Ryan Poles, former offensive lineman, and until this year didn't realize you need offensive linemen to win.
Ken Holland, when he was in Detroit, he basically won with a team that Stan Bowman put together, or not Scotty Bowman put together.
Yeah. Is there anybody more overrated as far as NHL GMs than Ken Holland?
Stan Bowman? Stan made a couple of nice moves, but my feeling in Chicago with Stan Bowman was every decision went through like 4 channels before it got to him. I've always maintained that there were some bad contracts given out to popular players, and those came from the desk of John McDonough. I don't know how much Stan Bowman had to do with that. But anyway, so yeah, that was my one thing is like, when is there ever going to be any heat under Kyle Davidson? And right now, he's got another draft coming up. Right now, the Hawks are in the 5th spot for the lottery. And fortunately, right now, Florida is in the 11th spot.
Yeah, they had a tough loss last night. I didn't want to write them out after the Olympic break, but it's going to take a ridiculous winning streak for them to get. And I have to look it up. There are 2 things I wanted to look up to write about on the site. First of all, is the Blackhawks. When was the last time the Blackhawks had 3 goalies with a shutout in the same season? Because they have that this season with Spencer Knight, Drew Comezzo, and now Arvid Soderblom. So I'm going to have to look back and see when the last time that happened.
My guess would be when you had Crawford, Ranta, and was that Emery or Darling on that team?
I think it was Emery.
Yeah, that would be my guess. So that's 2015 team.
That's one stat I'm going to look at, and the other stat I want to look at, because right now it is very likely, like 95% likely, that both the defending Stanley Cup champion and defending President's Trophy winner from last year are going to miss the playoffs. When's the last time that's happened? That it wasn't the same team.
I was going to say, it wasn't the same team.
I can't think of a time when, the defending Stanley Cup champion and the previous President's Trophy winner missed the playoffs the following year. But we're about ready to see that with the Panthers and the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
Crazy. Hockey is a strange,
it's a funny game.
Yes, it is. Few injuries and your
Okay,
season's derailed.
In 2015, Crawford had 2, Darling had 1, Ranta had 2.
Okay, there you go.
So there you go.
I was kind of hoping it was a lot longer ago than that, because that would make for a much more fun article than just a little while ago.
Yeah.
But the Stanley, we've seen Stanley Cup champions miss the following year. That happens every once in a while.
Yeah.
We've seen President's Trophies teams crap out. I mean, that just happened last year, right? With the Rangers.
Yeah.
So that's going to be 2 years in a row for the President's Trophy winner the next year not make it. But to have the Cup champ and best regular season team not making the same year, that I can't remember the last time that happened.
Yeah, I don't know.
I will research that when they create a 25th hour in the day.
I was saying that might even go back to when it was what was it, Prince of Wales Trophy.
Yeah, maybe. But then again, probably didn't happen that often because you only had 12
16.
teams in the league. 6 and 12 where only a handful of teams were missing. You had to be really bad to miss the playoffs back in the late 60s.
So what we're going to see now is with Connor Murphy gone and maybe Matt Grzelcyk if the price is right. Either way, I mean, Artem Levshinov, it's your time. There's no more resets. And
no.
And we're gonna see Korchinski trying to earn his keep. I mean, when Wyatt Kaiser comes back, maybe they send Korchinski to Rockford just to get him playoff eligible. Although Rockford's having their own issues in terms of playoffs.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure we'll see that on Friday because league rule is you have to be on the AHL roster at the NHL trade deadline to be playoff eligible. So we'll probably see paper transactions on Friday afternoon with Rinzel and Murphy. Not Murphy. Korchinski. Get those guys eligible. Yeah, Kaiser sounds like he's going to come back Friday against Vancouver. So hopefully Sam Rinzel's over his illness that kept him out over the weekend. So they actually have 6 defensemen. It's going to be interesting to see how Jeff Blashill rolls out his pairings tomorrow in Winnipeg with no Connor Murphy. I mean, do you put Sam Rinzel and Kevin Korchinski together? I don't know. But what are your options? He's not going to break up Crevier and Vlasic. And Grzelcyk's been Levshinov's safety blanket, so I don't think he has a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't.
Yikes.
Well, try to minimize the minutes and try to give him as many offensive zone starts as you can.
And who takes
not what you want with a defenseman, but
Yeah, but and who takes Murphy's spot on the PK?
That's probably going to have to be Rinzel.
Yeah, unless you want to give, you split it up a little bit, give Artie a look out there, but that might be a little too much for him to handle right now. But
yeah,
as far as Levshinov,
he's been okay in the last couple games, but yeah, you don't want to just throw him in the deep end. He is still just a rookie.
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen from him. These 3 games, especially Sunday. Sunday against Utah was probably his best, definitely his best of the 3, and one of his best games of the season. He was really effective. And even though the Nashville game, he had that turnover that led to the Forsberg goal. Yeah, he could have done better on that play. He needs to be more aware. But even Jeff Blashill said that, his forwards kind of left him on an island. They saw the forecheck coming and they just kind of stood there still trying to leave the zone. Didn't exactly help him out.
Yeah.
But he made a nice play breaking up a 2-on-1 rush later in the game. He was on the ice for a goal against Colorado, but it had another play where he broke up a 2-on-1 again, almost an identical play. And then Sunday, he was really good. Just, physical, had a couple of nice plays in the third period below the goal line. Took a big hit, absorbed a hit to get the puck out of the zone, and then later he kind of pushed Clayton Keller around and got him off the puck. Those are the types of things that are going to impress his coaching staff, and
those are the types of things you want to expect from a second overall pick,
right? And even Alex Vlasic after the game commented on how physical he was, and when he's got that aspect of his game going, how effective he can be. And the thing with him is they have to get him to stop thinking on the ice. When he's playing instinctual, he's really good, and you see why he was taken second overall. When he's thinking, it's not good because he becomes a half a step slower, and he second guesses himself, and you can see the hamster wheel cranking between his ears, and it's just it's not good.
I always say cymbal playing monkey.
Yeah, same thing.
So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be sink or swim for some of these guys, and it's gonna be good or bad. And Korchinski's one of those guys. He's going to be an NHL defenseman somewhere next year. Whether it's Chicago or if he gets traded for someone, either way, he's going to be an NHL defenseman. So, you got 20-ish games left. Let's, you see what he's got hanging in his jack.
He needs to show something.
Yeah.
It's not make or break, but it's getting close. We're in year 3. It's time to see something. And it's obvious that Jeff Blashill doesn't exactly trust him yet. He got thrown in the lineup against Colorado because Sam Renzel got sick, and he played a little over 8 minutes. And then against Utah, it was still less than 11 minutes. Even with a 4-0 lead in the third period, I thought he might get more time, but it wasn't a whole lot. I get the Colorado. You wanted to kind of hide him out there. Having him go out there against that team on short notice is probably not a great idea, but he's going to have to definitely show something here over these last 22 games to, prove to the Hawks that, hey, okay, we'll give you we'll give you another couple years to figure it out.
Yeah. And also, depending on where the Hawks pick in the draft, and there's some good defensemen that are going to be out there.
Well, I fully expect them to take at least one defenseman in the first or second round this season, this draft. We'll see how it shakes down, how many of those picks are actually made. And that's something also about that Connor Murphy pick the Blackhawks got today in 2028. If I was a betting man, which I'm not, but if I was, I would bet a substantial amount of money that the Blackhawks never make that pick.
Yeah.
That pick is traded long before in some sort of deal to either get up in the draft or to acquire a player via trade. I would say that the odds are pretty good that pick is never made by the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 3 second rounders coming up this summer, and
they're not making all 3 of those.
No, I fully expect that some or all of those picks are going to get bundled up for a 1.
Especially if that Panthers pick slides into the top 10.
Yeah. The Toronto second round pick is looking like it's going to be a pretty good one.
Yeah. And the other one is the Islanders?
Yeah.
That was to take the Josh Bailey contract. Was that how they got that pick?
Yep.
Blackhawks legend Josh Bailey. Best 16-minute career in the history of the team.
Hey, it was no Andrew Ebbett arm goal.
No.
But then again, what is? And Rockford's been in the shitter, so there's not a whole lot of hog cranking to be done tonight.
No, they're not very good. That's my analysis of the team. See you next week.
Yeah, and our young Mr. Brezhnev went and did a Sammy Sosa imitation.
Yeah, that's it's funny how many times that's happened this season to guys trying to come back from injury. Caleb Jones got busted the same way, I mean, it's not anything like intentional, but again, there are guys that are paid money that you see every day in your locker room, whose job it is to make sure everything you put in your body is legal.
Yeah.
But that's not the biggest issue the Ice Hogs are facing right now. They
No.
cannot score a goal to save their lives. They got manhandled much of the weekend against the Hershey Bears, who are essentially like the 33rd NHL team. They're a team kind of like the Wolves. They always bring in a lot of veterans to. They want to win Calder Cups, but they've actually got some pretty good uh, prospects down there now. Andrew Cristal, another one of Connor Bedard's cousins, had a pretty good weekend with a couple of goals. But they're struggling. But it's the AHL, and you never know what happens. I think they're 6 points out of a playoff spot.
Yeah.
That's tough, but I covered that league long enough that that's a roller coaster league where, you know, they're trying to chase the Predators. Well, what happens when the Predators trade 2 or 3 guys by the end of the week? They got to replace them with the top 3 guys from the Admirals, and all of a sudden the Admirals can't win a game for 2 weeks. So you never know.
Yeah. But going back to hockey players getting testing positive for PEDs that coming off injuries, is there's so much stuff being experimented on that aren't necessarily steroids, but
Right.
like there's all these, like there's this one peptide, it's called BPC 157. They call it the Wolverine drug, and that's supposed to just be amazing for recovery from injury, also recovery if you're working out. But I also don't know if you get a clean drug test when you use it. So, I mean, I don't know if that's over the counter. There's all You can go into the vitamin shop, GNC, wherever you want to go, and there's going to be all kinds of different growth peptides there that are over the counter, and you'll still piss dirty when you take them.
Yeah. I mean, you could piss dirty if you have a poppy seed bagel on your way into the test if you're not careful. But
I
there's
used
just,
to,
yeah, you're right. There's so much unknowns out there that, things mimic other things. While they may not be illegal, they have parts to them that, are against league rules. It's so crazy. And that's, again, like I said, but you have a guy there whose job is it to tell you if you can take it or not. Use
right.
his advice, please.
Yes. Um, in my real career of information technology, of shit, coming up on 42 years in July, um, I've had to work at places where I've had to do drug testing because I'm getting bonded because of the information that I'm working with. And I used to always joke around that I was going to have a poppy seed bagel and wash it down with quinine water.
There you go.
Just test positive for everything. And my drug test would look like I was Rick James. But they're not hogs, but let's crank some guys. Let's talk a little bit about uh there's one guy, it's funny, and I'm saying it's funny because it actually is. Jack Pridham, how much video have you watched on him?
Um, Outside of like his goal highlights, not a ton.
How
Usually I
many
reserve that for the off season.
how many different ways have you heard his last name pronounced?
Nah, I haven't really paid attention to be honest with you. I've pretty much only heard Pridham.
I've heard Pridham, and
Mm.
it wasn't the guy didn't have a French accent, but go by Pridham. It's like Pridham. That's new.
Well, in Chicago, he's being big. He's going to be that Pride Ham guy. Give me some
Oh
of
yeah,
that Pride
Pride Ham.
Ham. Yeah, right there, right next to the Crocus.
Pride Ham's got to be skating out there with mustard.
There you go. Well, you don't.
Then all we need is a forward named Bumpernickel. Oh man. But yeah, a lot of the and this is one of the other things is we talk about these guys who haven't shown up yet, and are they going to pan out? Like we know he's not going to get here before his season ends in Brantford, but Marek Van Acker, he's a guy who's going to come in. and coming in the summer, he's going to hopefully spend his summer working out with some supervision from the Blackhawks staff.
Well, he should go where Nick Lardis went last year, where he worked out with John Tavares and a bunch of
Yeah,
NHL guys. Send him there. That won't hurt.
yeah, and because he's going to have to play a more physical game than Lardis. He's a bigger guy, and he's going pro. Prudhomme, I'm going to call him Prudhomme just because it sounds snazzy. He's a guy who he's committed to college next year, but after the season he's having, and the fact that he's going to be 21 at the start of the season, I could see him wanting to go pro. And he's going to have a long conversation with the Blackhawks, I'm sure. And then there's going to be some lower level guys, like AJ Spellacy he's a bottom six guy. What I'd actually like to see him do next year, speaking of cranking hogs, I'd like to see him get some time skating with Gavin Hayes, because they're both those guys. You could see them skating third or fourth line and maybe creating some energy out there.
Well, especially if you throw Sammy Savoie on that line too. That's a pain in the ass line if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, at some point, I don't know how long Savoie is going to want to stay in Rockford. Although he hasn't.
Here's an idea. Give him a reason to call you up.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, Andrew Shaw, he plays the same sort of game as Andrew Shaw, but Andrew Shaw at least found ways to get the puck in the net. Andrew Shaw was not a terribly skilled guy, but he would still manage to somehow get a puck in a net 15 to 20 times a year. And in the NHL, that gets you paid.
Yeah, and I like Savoie a lot. I think he's a really fun guy. His teammates love him, but I don't know what his NHL future is at this point. Maybe we see him in a game or two by the end of the year, just to kind of give him that little, that little carrot at the end of the year, saying, "Okay, you've been here now 2 years. We're going to let you make your NHL debut in the regular season finale, get your taste. Now go work for it in the off season."
Yeah, a couple extra bucks for being in the NHL.
Yeah, get a better meal. The season finale is at home, so you get to play in front of the home crowd against the San Jose Sharks. Yeah. Let Macklin Celebrini skate right past you and get that NHL game check.
Yeah. But the one we're all waiting on is the next one up is going to be our young Anton Frondell.
Yeah, and we could see him here in a few weeks, depending on how his team does. They're battling for that last playoff spot, and even if they do sneak into the SHL playoffs, I don't imagine it's going to be a very long run.
Yeah, it's like, don't they have like a best of 3 play-in type of deal?
I think they only take 8 teams.
Okay.
And they're like they keep teetering between 8th and 9th. Like 8, 9, and 10 are all separated by like 2 points.
Yeah.
So it's going to come down to the
seen it really tight.
So we'll see how that happens. But he's got goals in back-to-back games, and the one he scored Sunday for us, but his 17th goal to me was one of the most impressive ones he scored all season. I posted the highlight of it on the morning chirps from Sunday over on Blackhawk Up if you wanted to check it out. That goal was impressive because he got the puck and was headed into the right corner, and he had a defender all over him, but he used his body to shield the puck and kind of get him off his back, and then skated it back into the high slot, took his shot, and the second he let go of his shot, he headed right for the net because the rebound came right to him, and he scored off the rebound. That's a play that not a lot of guys, if any, on the Blackhawks can really make right now, and they need that.
Yeah, I've said this a bunch of times. It's really hard to take a guy who has yet to play a game in the NHL and compare him to a great, great player. but there's so much of his game that is just really reminiscent of Marian Hossa. And it's not fair. It's not fair to a guy who's never played in the NHL to say, "Hey, you're the next Marian Hossa," but he can be that type of player. He might not have all of the success Hossa had. I'd be happy if he does, but just that guy that you can't knock him off the puck. He's the type of guy. I've seen video of him where he goes into the corner. There's two guys from the other team. He goes in the corner and he comes out with the puck. Um, there's times where he's got the puck and a defenseman gets in his way and he just kind of trucks the defenseman and never loses the puck. This is the sort of thing, like you said, there's nobody on the Hawks who does this. They've got, Colton Dach is a big boy, but Colton Dach doesn't have that. He doesn't have the puck skill that Anton Frundell has.
Right.
And we've talked about this also before, which is we might see Sasha Boisvert fairly soon because BU. I don't know when the Hockey East playoffs start, but
soon. I think next
yeah.
weekend. More like PU. Am I doing this right? Yeah, they haven't been very good this year.
They are quite ungood.
Yeah, they're having a down season for that program because you figured heading into the year that, hey, BU is going to at least get to the NCAA tournament. They're probably not even going to do that right now because didn't Providence wrap up the number 1 seed for that tournament? Yeah. Which congratulations to John Mustard and Julius Sumpf for that. They're having the best season in their school's history for sure. They've been really good. And John Mustard's leading that team in goals.
Yeah, he's got 25 points in 33 games. And yeah, he's having a really nice season. I'm hoping. I don't think that there's any plan on his part or on the Blackhawks' part for him to go pro this year. I'm sure the Blackhawks would like for him to stay in for another year.
Yeah, absolutely. Go be a big fish in a small pond for a year. Wednesday, March 11th is when the Hockey East tournament starts. So yeah, and some of them start. Some of them start as early as this weekend. So the conference tournaments are starting soon.
Yeah, but the one that's really relevant is BU and Boisvert because that's the one guy where you're like, okay, he's going to go pro.
Yeah, so they're starting next week. So we'll see how long that lasts. I don't see the dates for the hockey tournament, the NCAA tournament, just yet. But I would imagine that's going to be the end of the month usually. The Frozen Four is in Vegas this year. That will be fun.
Yeah.
Put a bunch of college kids in the middle of Vegas and see if they don't get in trouble.
Yeah. College kids, hockey players.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is on a lot of those teams, most of them are 24 or 25, so they'll have no problem getting a table. But it's those younger kids you got to worry about.
There's a lot of Rileys and Jonesies on those teams.
Yeah, a lot.
So yeah, I mean, those are the ones relevant to the Hawks. We'll see Frundell, and we'll probably see Boisvert this year in Chicago. I don't really see anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, and there really isn't a whole lot of room.
Not this year.
This year, and I mean, I know everybody's favorite NHL insider, Frank Zervali, they had him on CHSN over the weekend, and he kind of projected next year's lineup, and it didn't look a whole lot different from this year's lineup, which had people uh, up in arms. But you know, he did have Lardis, he did have Canceroff, he did have Frondell on there, and then one blank, open spot to see who that is. But I've been trying to tell people who've asked me and commented on things like, don't go into this off season with high expectations of anything big coming here that wasn't drafted.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
there's
free agency
maybe
sucks. There is no
free
free
agency
agency.
sucks. Maybe there's a trade out there, but you know, look, we know Dickinson's not going to be back, so that's an open spot. Uh, I will be very, very surprised if Nick Foligno returns.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I'm sure he's also kind of got the feeling of, he's been hurt a couple times this year, and I don't know how much he really wants to keep getting banged up.
Yeah,
He's
I think this is his last run, and if he has to be traded for a cup run, then that pretty much guarantees it.
yeah, I think he would only take a trade if it's to go play with his brother in Minnesota.
There are three places I think he would go to. Minnesota definitely is one. I think if the Bruins came calling, he would go play for them again. He's got a good relationship with them. And of course, if the Columbus Blue Jackets want to add him to try and push into the playoffs, he would definitely go back and finish out in Columbus as well. Other than that, I don't see, I don't see him saying, "Yeah, I want to go play for the Seattle Kraken." I just don't see that happening at
Yeah,
this
no,
point of his
no.
career. He'll play out his contract, say goodbye to all his adopted sons and move on to the next phase of his career, which wouldn't surprise me if it's still in the Blackhawks organization, um, whether it's broadcast team, development coach, scout, you know, professional baby kisser. He'd be good at
Yeah,
any of those jobs. And I know the front office adores him and wants to keep him around as long as possible.
yeah, but you know, I don't think they want him spending too much time in the clubhouse just because, you've got to have the new leaders lead. You know, we, at some point this summer, they'll announce that Connor Bedard is the captain of the Blackhawks. Um, and then they'll have to give out the two A's, figure one of the A's is going to be Alex Vlasic.
Yeah,
Um, I would guess the other one is Frank Nazar.
maybe. Or maybe they go to one of the veteran guys who are coming back. Maybe they slap an A on Tavo just for to have that veteran leader. But he's not really a rah 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 talk to the
Yeah,
officials kind of guy. Um, so yeah, we'll see. I mean, that makes sense um, with Nazar, but we'll see how that works out.
yeah, there's
Maybe
there's a long way between now and opening night.
yeah, we'll see what happens. Do they buy out Andre Burakovsky and clear up a roster spot that way? From what I've seen over the last 20 games, do it. Uh, who cares?
Yeah,
Eat the money. Um, you know, uh, One of the interesting things, I don't think anything's going to happen, but I wonder if Kyle gets into any kind of trade talks between now and Friday on some of these like younger players that need a new need a new team. You've heard Shane Wright's name get thrown out there. You've heard Brad Lambert up in Winnipeg is a guy looking for a change. Does he try and get someone like that, or does he say no? I want to do it with my own guys.
I think if he can find a guy who he thinks can benefit from playing for Jeff Blashill, yeah, make the trade.
I mean, if that Shane Wright kind of intrigues me because I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. I
Yeah,
think you know um, do I think he's ever going to be worth, that billing that he had coming, out of juniors? Probably not. But in the right situation, I think he could be a very useful third line center, middle six depth scoring guy, which the Hawks need. So,
Although, I think they're still hoping that Oliver Murph becomes that guy.
yeah, well, if you got two of those guys, it's not the end of the world.
No, no, it's
I
not.
credit to Oliver Moore, man. That play yesterday on the Nick Foligno goal, where he made that sneaky little play along the wall after a
Yeah.
face-off loss. I mean, those are the type of players where I'm like, okay, I like this kid, because that's a play that a lot of youngsters wouldn't make.
There's been a couple of times at the end of periods, if you see Moore out there with the puck on his stick, he looks at the clock. He's always aware of how much time is left.
That's a good trait to have, because how many times have the Hawks skated around the puck, and the horn goes off, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know."
Yeah.
While the entire United Center is screaming at them to shoot the puck.
They're always screaming at the
Well,
guys.
yes, but when there's 2 seconds left on the clock, that's when it's acceptable. When there's 18 and a half minutes in the third period and the man at the point on the power play has the puck with 6 guys standing his way and you're yelling shoot, then it's a little, a little nonsensical. But, as the clock is ticking, that makes I'll allow it.
Yeah. All right. So I think we've covered everything, and the deadline is in a couple of days. And next week, when we speak again, we will be able to talk about what the roster will look like for the remainder of the season.
Yep. We'll have a couple more games under our belts. I know we didn't talk a lot about the actual games this time around, but with the trade and all that stuff, but they'll have Winnipeg tomorrow night, and then they have the Vancouver Canucks back home on Friday. The first game post deadline, where we'll know exactly who's gone. And those are 2 winnable games. And then next Saturday, no, that's Sunday.
Sunday, they're in Dallas.
Dallas, and then Monday, Utah again. So we might not be able to record on Monday.
No, we won't.
But
you're going to be busy.
That's the NHL schedule. So weird. The Blackhawks played Utah, 3rd game of the season, October 13th, and now they're going to play them 3 times in 12 days in March. This schedule is not good for the Blackhawks. Dallas, Utah, Vegas, Minnesota, Colorado, Nashville, Islanders. Oof. They don't get a reprieve until the end of March, when they got 3 straight games against the Flyers, Rangers, and Devils.
And another game to circle on your calendar is March 31st in the United Center, Winnipeg Jets. Probably Jonathan Toews' last game in the United Center. I actually half expect that he could announce his retirement by then, that this is it for him. So yeah, that's going to be a big game.
Yeah,
it's going to be another really emotional game, because that'll probably be his last game ever in the United Center.
Until they sign him that 1-day contract and he can skate on the ice and put the red 19 back on and get his flowers.
Yep. And put it up. Well, I think the Blackhawks usually wait until a player's inducted in the Hall of Fame. The only reason they didn't retire 2 this year is because of all the 100th anniversary things going on.
Yeah. Well, that actually is a prerequisite now. They came out after the Marin Hossa retirement ceremony. They came out with their prerequisites to getting your number retired, or reported prerequisites. They didn't officially release them, but they made their way out there. And one of the prerequisites is being in the Hockey Hall of Fame. But you also have the the Blackhawks Hall of Fame now, so every year you're gonna get somebody
Right.
else part of that too. But yeah, they'll hold on to that 19 retirement ceremony for a while. They'll keep
Yeah.
that back pocket for a couple of years. But you know, if this is Jonathan Taves last year, 3 years from now, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the one thing that would be fun would be if they put it up in the rafters when Detroit's in town.
Who would you do that against? You can't do them all against Detroit. You did Chelios against Detroit.
Well, no, you want to do Taves with Kane in the building.
Yeah, well, yeah. If he's still playing 3 years from now.
Right. Who knows?
I don't know. I don't know. Who would you do it against? That's a good question. What team did Jonathan Taves haunt the most? Vancouver?
Oh, either Vancouver or Anaheim.
Or San Jose. He didn't like the Sharks.
Yeah.
You can bring out Joe Thornton. They can have one last punching match in the corner.
Well, no, I don't know if he ever outwardly said which player he hated the most, but it has to be Ryan Kessler.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And with some of the stuff that's come out about him recently, rightly so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can have the Sharks in town. Then Patrick Marleau can come out and make another 7-hour speech before the game.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of 7 hours, we're hitting that. We're rambling.
Yeah, we're filibustering here.
I think most of our audience have clicked us off about.
They clicked us off as soon as the organ music stopped, or they're going to fast forward until they can hear the organ again. So play us out, Al.
All right, we'll see you guys when we see you. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon.